Hello and welcome to our March Digital Transformation Series webinar. Today we're going to be talking about From Hype to Help, Real AI and RPA Business Use Cases. This is a topic that we created after receiving some feedback on a couple of prior AI-related sessions we ran, where we had talked about data governance and some of the precursors to rolling out a successful AI project. And the feedback we received was that some folks were still trying to figure out the best way to leverage automation, whether powered by AI or robotic process automation in the organization. So today what I did was I rounded up two of the experts in our company to talk about this topic. For those that don't know me, I'm Dave Del Vecchio. I'm VP of Marketing and Communications for Sourcepass. And I've invited Graham Rosenberg, who'll be joining us. Graham is our Director of Intelligence and Automation. He helps not only for our clients, but also within Sourcepass, the design and lead of development for transformative RPA and AI initiatives and strategies. His work is done in lockstep with Anthony Latham and our product innovation teams. And so Anthony and Graham will be talking a little bit about some examples of the way you can use AI and RPA within a business environment. So with that, Graham, I will cede my screen to you and let you go ahead and share your screen and come join me on stage and start the discussion.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, perfect. So as Dave laid out today, we're just going to talk high level about AI and RPA, some real business use cases that you can use with them today. We'll turn the slides off. We'll go into a panel discussion and followed by Q&A. So, everyone's heard about AI. It's a buzzword. It's everywhere. It's embedded in every electronic device that you buy today. And most companies are still asking, how do we actually use this? So first off, let's kind of have a definition of what Agentic AI is. You hear that kind of everywhere. Agentic AI is different than just normal AI. When you think of AI, you think of ChatGPT or Claude, any of the large language models. That is not what Agentic AI is. Agentic AI decides for you, acts, adapts, and makes decisions kind of on your behalf in an autonomous way. You can think of workflows that generally take in inputs and have outputs. Agentic AI kind of fits in the middle of that and can make decisions on your behalf without human interaction being involved. Robotic process automation, on the other hand, it's kind of old school automation. How I like to describe it is if you can build it inside of a Visio flowchart, it kind of goes through the process. You take in inputs, it does some actions, and then there's outputs. Oh, my slides just went away. Let me pull those back up.
And one thing I'll add on the agentic piece, when people say AI, the difference between the two, the easiest way to describe this is the agent itself, the agentic part of AI is able to take actions. So combining the two of RPA and AI, where it's not in a workflow, that's your AI portion of it. It has the general rough idea of the goal that it has to get to, but it's able to make its own decisions based on rules that you give it. It's able to make its own best judgment decision and use a tool to get there on its own without us defining the exact step, is that agent layer.
Yeah, exactly right. Being able to put thought and intelligence in decision making. I mean, that's really the key difference. All right, jump to the next slide. So RPA is kind of similar but different. There's no thinking involved, right, Anthony? You take an input, something triggers a workflow, and it takes action. The action's always repetitive. There's compute that's involved, but there's no thinking involved. It's just it takes that action that's predetermined every single time. Think of you get a certain ticket into your system, you send an email automatically. There's no thought there. It's the same thing every single time. So combining these two together, how, they're very different, but they can work very well together. Think of that example I used. A ticket comes into your system. Instead of sending an email, you could use intelligence to say, what is this ticket about? Do I need to send an email based on the contents of it? Do I need to add more people based on the contents of it? Do I have an entire site that's offline and we need to bring in a lot more people? We can send out automated, that email can go to a lot more people based on what's inside of the body. We don't have to program that in the sense of look for these keywords. We can say, hey, if there's a site that's out, let's alert all of these people. And that's kind of where the AI and the agentic piece can tie in to an existing process, into an existing workflow.
Yeah, you'd basically give it the end result and the goals that you're looking to achieve, and then allow it to be able to steer itself along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Next slide. Some use cases. We use AI and RPA in our everyday world here at Sourcepass in IT operations. We're proactively looking at issues as they come in to the system to determine if action needs to occur, if we need to escalate it to a certain team. Intelligent ticket automation as well. This is something that has helped us so much in the last year. As tickets come into our system, we can determine what the priority of the ticket is, who has the skills to work on that ticket. We can update the ticket with relevant information. We can go pull documentation out of our documentation system saying, hey, I think this document here would be able to help you. It's still being driven by robotic process automation. A trigger triggers a workflow. We do certain things, and when necessary, the AI comes in and just gives some more information to help us along. And then the last one there, technician assistant, kind of AI co-pilot. This is similar to the ChatGPTs and the Geminis out there, but you can make them more intelligent to your business. Microsoft Copilot does a really good job at this, but you can build custom copilots for very specific purposes. Think of like your HR system. You have tons of policies. You can create a copilot that has awareness of all of your policies, and you can ask questions about it and get answers returned to you in a very intelligent, dynamic way. HR and people operations. This is one that we've integrated as well here at Sourcepass in terms of onboarding automation, not only internally, but for our clients as well as employee self-service. We've done a lot of RPA for this for many years, but we're starting to dial in some agentic features into these processes as well. Making sure that if an RPA process fails along the way for this email address already exists or there's a license issue, we can take proactive measures to either try to self-remediate that inside the workflow itself using AI or route certain issues and notifications to different departments based on the results.
The important piece there is you might have been able to do some of the automation in the past in previous years, but the gap that we haven't been able to solve is all the edge cases of, well, what happens if, normally it gets escalated, an HR issue gets escalated to this person. What if that person's out or on PTO? You could add in some instructions to AI now to say, make sure this person is available or can take the ticket or can take the escalation. If not, here's some other alternative paths to still get them to what they need.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the employee self-service piece there, I mentioned it earlier. It's a great use case for a customized co-pilot, a customized chat agent to help answer questions. I'm sure there's HR gets asked the same questions every single day. If you can build that into a chat agent, not only is it faster results on the front end for the person asking the question, you're freeing up your HR team on the back end as well. It's a win-win on both sides.
Yeah.
Customer service. I mentioned earlier our automated intake process. Does not necessarily have to be just for a ticketing system. It can be an email box. Emails come in and you take automated action that kicks off a workflow that you can inject agentic solutions into it to take certain actions. You get an email that's for a sales order, and based on what's in that sales order, you can route it to the proper sales rep is another example. Being able to not have to build hundreds of if-else statements. You can just put in kind of the policy and the workflow you want it to take, and based on what's in the content, you can have intelligent routing. You don't have to build rules for it. You can just kind of give it a direction. Operations and finance. This is a big one that hits every single business. Being able to pull reports is generally very cumbersome, especially for the data you're looking for. You can have intelligent agents that, instead of pulling these reports or having them emailed to you, have a chat agent that you can request these in real time. You can get up to the minute information. You don't have to rely on a human to go pull this report for you. The agent can understand what you're looking for, go into your database and pull out the relevant reports all within the same chat window. Very helpful, very up to the minute information as well. It's not outdated as soon as it hits your email box, as an example.
So one thing I'll call out also is we often, like we've talked about AI and RPA so far, we often run into the third leg of this, which is the business intelligence, the BI behind everything. AI needs data. And anytime we are integrating the two, there is always a component of good, clean data. Doesn't necessarily have to be structured in a specific way, but accurate, up-to-date, or clean data that we could look at. And then often we find that either ourselves or clients want to see results in a dashboard or in the data later on. So kind of using it for the workflow, using it for AI, but then also being able to report on, what was the outcomes, results of implementing a workflow or implementing AI. What did it do to, sales numbers or, email marketing or SEO, etc.
Yeah. Or even build in certain rules that say, hey, if I get this invoice every single month, if it jumped 40%, alert me. Historically, you'd have to have a finance person watch out for that and have knowledge of what previous invoices were. You can build these into your process that AI can take a look at that and alert you. All right, Dave, want to come back on? And
yeah, I'd love to come back on, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of little nuggets in there. And as I mentioned at the outset, we had some kind of predefined questions that we wanted to kind of expand upon, but there's even a couple more I was jotting down as you guys were talking, because there is so much to this subject. But to kind of kick it off, I wanted to start with a story, because the phrase AI is just everywhere right now. There's a lot of hype around the use of AI in whatever way, shape, or form people are presenting it. And it reminds me, now I've been doing this for over 30 years. I started working for my first IT services provider back in May of 1994. And this was at the dawn of the internet age. At that point, we all were dialing up with our 14.4 modems, connecting the Prodigy, whatever the hell it was. I'll never forget, as I was ordering stuff, because we had a little retail shop, I was ordering stuff to put in our retail shop. There were bagged mouse pads that had a stamped label added to the bag that said internet ready. Like there's anything about a mouse pad that either was or wasn't going to be internet ready. And I feel like AI is dealing with that same sort of hype right now, where people are throwing the AI name on things that may or may not actually be AI. So from a business leader's perspective, since you guys are building all of these sorts of solutions for folks, what do you encourage business leaders to know about AI and what it can and can't do today to bust through some of that hype?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I wish more leaders understood that AI is not magic. It feels like magic, but like you said, there's so much noise around it. Every vendor has slapped AI powered on their products. It's everywhere. The companies I see getting real results are the ones that don't start with the technology, they start with the problem. They figure out what's costing us time, what's costing us money, what's costing us quality, and then figure out how AI automation or both of them can solve those specific problems. I like to look at AI as kind of the foundation and not the house. It's not the tool. It's kind of like the electricity inside the house that makes everything run. It's incredibly powerful when you pair it with structured automation and clear business processes. When you don't have those processes in mind, AI is just not doing anything. It's not very intelligent.
Mm-hmm. And so actually it leads me to another memory from 30 plus years ago. We also did software development back in that time. And I remember my mentor that I was working under had made a comment once to me about you can't automate a system that doesn't work manually. And so I would imagine it's like if you don't have a well-defined workflow in your organization, you can't automate something that doesn't exist, right? So I would imagine that while there might be a gap from a business leader's perspective in their business, if that gap is on the execution speed and how you can accelerate it, that's a problem that's probably easily solved. Whereas if the problem is the workflow is broken to begin with, you got to solve that first before you can automate it, correct?
100%. I like to joke, especially here internally, the hardest part of automation is building the process, and it has nothing to do with the technology. It's actually writing down what is supposed to happen. And that's the most time consuming part. Once you can dial in a repeatable process that is just, like I said, super dialed in, the automation's pretty easy after that.
So I wanted to go back and touch a little bit about agentic AI. So without understanding the definition, which you offered a definition for as part of the presentation, as a person who is not overly technical, it's such a buzzword. It sounds so buzzwordy to me. It's hard for me to understand the difference, but you've now provided some context, but maybe you could expand upon it. When you're talking about agentic AI, you're not talking about just throwing prompts in to do something in Chat GPT. So, can you expand upon how designing an agentic AI solution differs from things like Copilot or Chat GPT or Gemini or any of the other platforms?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece for me is the agent part of it is able to take actions. So when you're chatting with ChatGPT, you're using an LLM, you're using a large language model that has vast access to knowledge. It is the Google backend. Let's just think of it that way. Of like, I could Google anything, I can get my answer. That's the LLM piece of it. The agentic part is I put in my question to Google And then it reached out, it found all of these links for me. It compared the prices, it compared the availability, and then it gave me the best option. And it gave me the link and said, if you want, I can go ahead and order it. Like that whole back end workflow that I described, although the basis of it took place within Google, let's say, you searched for sheets for your bed. You still use that foundational piece of the LLM to go search. The agent part of it said, I'm going to take it a step further and I'm going to use these tools. I'm going to compare these things. I'm going to put this all together for you because I know if you're searching for this, you obviously are trying to buy something. So let me, find the best option for you and present it and get it ready. That's the agent part of it. It's the access to the tools to be able to take actions, to be able to do workflows or certain functions, going beyond just giving you a response, giving you an answer. Also very valuable, but two different functions.
Right. Makes sense. So, as you start to build through all of those processes and bringing in all of this information and creating all the hooks and things, can you walk through an example that had a measurable impact on a team of where, the before and after of when you put this in place, what the before looked like versus what you were able to accelerate and accomplish with the after?
I'll use the example I used earlier and talk about our intake process for ticketing. Previously, we'd get a ticket either emailed to us or called in or submitted through a portal. However, the ticket made its way to us and it would fall into a queue. And we would have someone on our team that would go through that queue, read the ticket, figure out who it's for, clean up the ticket in case there's email headers or footers in there that need to be cleaned up, and then determine, okay, does this need to go to our security team? Does this need to go to our networking team? Does this need to go to our tier 1 team, our tier 3 team? All very manual and all relying on a person to do that job. IT service providers for many years have said the dispatcher is the most important role in the organization because they're the traffic cop. They're the ones sending out where the tickets go. And it's also a bottleneck. That person is out sick or we get inundated with a flood of tickets. They can only really work one at a time and categorize one at a time. Last year, we implemented an agentic workflow that kind of does all of that for us. A ticket comes into the system. It cleans it up to our specification. It reads the ticket, understands intent, understands priority, and can route it to the proper team. Whether it's a security team with a high urgency or a networking team with a medium urgency. It categorizes the tickets as well with a type, a subtype, and an item. All of this is happening instantly. Within 30 seconds of the ticket hitting our system, it's being given to the proper team right away. The speed is a huge benefit, obviously, but it's the accuracy that has really made this like a mind-blowing thing for our company. Previously, the dispatcher, they're going based off of gut and feel. We were forced to, with this AI system, make definitions of what is a tier 3 ticket versus a tier 1 ticket versus a networking ticket versus a security ticket. We had to make these definitions, and now the accuracy is 99.9%. It's doing the same thing every single time. It categorizes the same way every single time. And it's just made, speed is great. The accuracy is where it's been a huge benefit for us.
Nice. So, I guess to our benefit, Sourcepass is 500 plus people. And in fact, we have a service operations director that his sole focus is to help us make improvements to those areas. Shout out to David Malangoni. Do you find that these sorts of solutions are only for big companies, big budgets, mid-market enterprise? Or if I was a leader in a 50-person company, are there ways that leader can leverage these technologies and do so in a cost-effective manner?
It's for big companies, not even close. Automation scales down super well, even to like a 1-person operation. Automation benefits everyone. A 50-person company might automate employee onboarding, things like account provisioning, welcome emails, account assignments. We've helped many of our customers with that exact thing. You know, accuracy and speed benefits every organization. It's not just the large ones. And especially in this day and age, it scales down super, super well.
Very cool. Where are the biggest gaps exist? What are the missed opportunities? Are there areas companies are leaving things on the table that they don't realize automation can do, and maybe there's the solutions right in front of them and they don't realize it yet?
I think one of the things that Graham was saying earlier on in the Copilot piece of like Copilot could do this well in the report, or answering certain things like the HR stuff. But then you also had mentioned like prompting to generate a report. It can do a lot. So even down to I need this piece of data out of this one piece of report that I may look at, once a month, instead of needing to regenerate a report, wait for it to run, pull up that report and find that cell or that specific cell within that sheet, within that, Excel report, whatever. You could have an agent look at that data and be able to search and read that data. And you obviously want to make sure that we are putting the proper guardrails on and scoping the agent's access appropriately and it's getting to the right people. But if that data exists and you can search it and read it and you're reporting on it today, then you could have a chat that answers the response that you're looking for within an Excel sheet. But just because, that's just a part of the job and it's a small part in your mind of like, yeah, of course I have to pull up this and look here. There's so many of those little like nuggets throughout the day that if you had one agent that you could work with throughout the day to answer some of those questions, you'd be amazed at those 5 minutes here, 15 minutes here that frees you up.
Yep. Well, and so it's funny when you started talking using the example about HR, it actually brought up another question for me, because I think when people hear the word automation, they might jump to, oh my God, they're looking to replace people, right? And how do you handle that conversation in an organization that is looking at leveraging these tools to accelerate things, and it might make some of the employees of the organization a little bit leery?
Yeah, it's a very important one. Everyone's going to obviously handle this different for their organization. I can tell you the way that we've handled it at Sourcepass is in the example Graham gave about dispatch, we've used the dispatch team to then be on the phones more. So being able to triage a ticket over the phone, where historically we had people working within the board, can now free them up to answer the phones. And I think as long as you're positioning it that way, and then you're growing your business, what it could be is a lever to fuel growth without needing to add equal costs, but not necessarily to cut costs. And obviously that, is the fear out there today in the market. But just from what we've seen outside of like major, Fortune 500 companies, what you're seeing is that a lot of the smaller companies are actually able to step up and do more with the same resources rather than cutting.
Yeah, I think that you've uncovered kind of a super important point in that I've heard this saying before that process is important, but nobody likes to feel processed. And, in thinking through that example that you're talking through, in the old way of every ticket having to go through a manual review, the amount of time it takes for a human to process every single one of those requests and to get them routed to the right place is going to chew up bandwidth and prevents that person from picking up the phone and actually having a meaningful conversation with the client on the other end, making the lead times longer than they necessarily need to be. If through automation, you can actually have the tickets that can route to the appropriate resources happen directly, it means that the person who needs the callback gets the callback quicker.
Yeah.
So it's not that you're eliminating a customer service advocate type position. It's that you're actually accelerating the pace at which they can actually talk to the people that actually need to have a conversation. And so, yeah, I think that's a great example.
We've gotten those before where it's like, I would love for this person to be able to do that, but we just don't have time. And then you peel back some of this and you can get some of their time back if some of the more monotonous stuff was off their plate.
Nice. Cool. So, when you're talking about AI I think when it was first kind of being introduced a couple years ago into the mainstream, or at least to the early adopters that have turned into the mainstream, the conversation with what the AI platforms can see became kind of front and center. So how do you build in the security and guardrails that need to be in place to make sure that all of your uses of AI stay within bounds and don't create new risks by accessing information maybe it shouldn't say?
Yeah, it's a loaded question. We do a whole webinar on this, but the shortest answer, the easiest way to think of this is to treat agents like humans in the sense of permissions, guardrails, auditing, tracking the, if Dave tries to reset his password, we would have an audit trail of it. You would do the same thing with an AI agent. You would give it an identity. You would tie that identity to the same security systems. There is a lot of planning there, and there's a lot more to that statement. But at a bird's eye view is you want to treat them from a security perspective like a human in the identity security space.
And so if someone wanted to start the process of automating a workflow that they believe can be accelerated, but they just need to figure out the best way to do it, what does the first step look like? How does someone begin the process?
I mean, step one is identifying the problem. Kind of like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we have to figure out what workflow, what we're trying to solve. If you're struggling figuring out where to begin, go around and start asking your team, what's something that you do that makes you groan, that you hate doing. Some easy wins are what's like a repetitive task that your team is doing all the time or that you're doing all the time, whether it's data entry, whether it's moving things from A to B, something that's repetitive. That's where automation really shines, is those repetitive mundane tasks. And just start creating a list of all of these little processes. They don't have to be big. They can be little ones. That list is your automation backlog right there.
Gotcha. And so for those organizations that you've worked with, that you've looked to put some of these solutions in place for, I'm sure that your batting average is not 1,000, right? There's probably some that fell a little short of their initial goals. What were the common mistakes that you can, if there is any common threads you can find that maybe derail some of these projects from being successful?
The big one is trying to boil the ocean. Trying to take a super complex process that is breaking all the time, and that's why you want to automate it, and you try to automate it. Generally, you trip up a lot, especially since you're not in an automation routine or mindset. Trying to automate the giant workflows generally isn't the best way to get started. I always like to start small. Prove value, get buy-in from the rest of the team. And generally, when you have those smaller automation wins, it starts to get the gears turning in people's minds of what else can be automated. Yeah, so that's the biggest thing, is just start small. Don't try to boil the ocean all in one go. And it's amazing how quickly those small automations add up over time.
Very cool. And before I ask my last question, which I want to post individually to each one of you, because I think you can answer it uniquely from your individual perspectives. I did just want to remind folks, if you have a question, throw it in the Q&A, and we'll happy to address those as well. But I had one more that I wanted to ask, and that's looking forward a little bit. And I'll start with Graham. As a person who works and designs these systems kind of holistically, as you look forward over the next 12 to 18 months, what gets you most excited about this space and what's coming next?
Oh man, I mean, I'm a futurist at heart, so playing with the AI technology and seeing every single day new features getting released, um, it makes me super excited. I love getting my fingers in there and playing with all the new technology. It's kind of hard to predict what's going to happen in the next 12 to 18 months because Anthropic's probably going to create a brand new product we haven't thought about tomorrow. But where I really see it, and it's already started, but it's really the convergence of AI and RPA. Many businesses still treat the two very differently. They look at AI as your Chat GPT, Copilot, Gemini chat assistant that helps individuals, and RPA automation that helps businesses. And I really think the convergence of those two is going to be huge in the next 12 to 18 months of all workflows being intelligent, even triggering them from a chatbot. I know Microsoft just announced Copilot Cowork. That's really the first step in from a Copilot perspective of AI and RPA really coming together to show real value.
Nice. And so, Anthony, I want to ask you the same question, but I want to frame it a little bit differently. So, as a person who is a business leader, that, in your role as VP of product, what makes you excited about the next 12 to 18 months about leveraging AI to have a further impact within Sourcepass within your role?
Yeah, I think 12 to 18 months is like 5 years in AI world.
That's generous. I usually say it's dog years. Yeah.
But a little bit of what Graham was saying, I think the co-work piece, seeing where that goes, that's very early right now, but seeing where that goes in the future, not just selfishly for, myself to be able to do more or be able to, converge a bunch of things myself on my own my own laptop, my own workspace. But thinking about that premise, but for Sourcepass, and what I mean by that is having Sourcepass be able to provide the same sort of solutions for clients that actually help their business. So obviously, we're a service provider, and our goal is to provide world-class support. On top of that, where I think we will be heading over the next 12 to 18 months is truly adding in the business value, meaning we are making you more, operationally sound. We're leading to more leads coming in. We're turning around your SLA for your support for your customers or clients faster. So being able to actually drive like business outcomes of our clients via both RPA and also AI. I think that piece and where that is heading for Sourcepass is the most exciting from my seat, at least.
Yeah, it's exciting for mine too, because you basically just offered a long form for what's on our homepage right now on our website, right? It's excellent service, strategic guidance delivered with innovation. And those are the three things that we tend to focus on. And you touched on all three of them. And I think it's important. And without turning this into too much of a commercial, every MSP has liked to say that they, take care of your IT so you don't have to. That's been the resounding, repetitive claim that every managed service provider has made for 15 years, but very few can actually deliver the business transformation that these sorts of solutions can offer, that your team, Graham's team, are actually here and ready and capable in delivering these solutions to our clients. So it's exciting for me as well.
One last thing I would add is,
as
a part of scoping these out and as a part of like when we are helping clients, it is a necessity to get ingrained in their business and learn the processes that they're talking about. In other words, we wouldn't be able to execute against what we're trying to do if we didn't. So it's foundationally needed in order for us to succeed as a team and as a business from our side.
Very cool. So there's been no chatter in the Q&A, so we'll start to wrap this up. If you do have any follow-up questions, you can feel free to email us at events@sourcepass.com. Those come through to both myself and Kat Irizarry, who's been lingering in the background. Hi, Kat. Thanks for helping. And we'll be able to loop in whether it's Graham or Anthony or someone that's appropriate to answer whatever question you might have. As I asked at the outset, we do want your feedback on today's session, so please complete those surveys once they're sent out to you. And until we see you on the next session, I want to offer thank you to both Graham and Anthony for taking this time today. That was an awesome session. Appreciate you guys in sharing these insights with us. And for everyone else, hope to see you at an event here in the not too distant future. So let's all get a little bit of time back. We're not going to take the full hour today, and appreciate the time you've given us. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Anthony.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.